I won't lie, I got my hopes up for this game. I really thought the Raptors were going to sucker punch the Nets and steal victory. However, that is not at all what happened in this game. The Raptors were awesome in the first half of the game. They were playing the game they wanted to and the pace they wanted to, forcing turnovers and getting transition buckets off of steals and rebounds. They were playing Raptors' brand of basketball. More importantly, Fred VanVleet and OG were having their way with the Nets' pretty trash defense, at least at that time. However, in the third quarter, the Nets sucker punched back, and everything started to go wrong. In my opinion, the third quarter is the most important quarter, especially in tight games. Teams who are able to come out of the half and execute their game plan are teams who usually end up winning the games because of the advantage they have going into the fourth quarter. This game was no different, as the Nets outscored the Raptors 35-for-17 in that quarter alone. They nearly doubled their production. The Nets hit 6 threes, while the Raptors hit absolutely none. More importantly, the Nets out-rebounded the Raptors 13-5 in that period, which both indicates the amount of shots they missed, but also how many second chance opportunities the Nets got and prevented by crashing the boards. This points to the biggest issue with the Raptors in this game, and it is the fact that they got completely out-rebounded, out-hustled by a stupid margin of 14 rebounds. They only collected 34 rebounds, which can honestly be attributed to the fact that the Nets were hitting a high percentage of shots, but at the same time, they only had 8 offensive boards. Despite not having a massive 7-footer on the team, the Raptors are actually one of the best rebounding teams in the league, thanks to their overall length advantage and their ability to have this team rebound mentality. And with the addition of Siakam, that advantage honestly grew. However, it was just not the case tonight, as the lack of intensity, hustle, and motor crushed them in this part of the game. More importantly, I felt the defense was always caught in no man's land. Players were always trying to decide whether they should double team Durant or Harden, or just stay away, and as a result, they left shooters wide open. It hurts when Blake Griffin gets hot from 3, who is not a sniper by any means. But regardless, that hesitation in deciding what to do on defense cost him big time. The best example of this was when Aldridge was posting up Siakam. Banton came to help out, but hesitated on a decision and didn't commit to one, and therefore a defensive 3-second was called. Now, we can definitely chop this up as a rookie mistake. But when you see the experienced players like Siakam, OG, Trent, and the rest of them make these same mistakes, then it becomes a problem, and one that needs to be addressed. A lot of people thought the Cavs game was a learning opportunity, and I do agree, it was. But I felt as though that this game was much more valuable in terms of experience, because truth be told, it was the first time this season that they're going up against a legitimate title contender head to head with no injuries. There is a lot to learn from this game and tons of mistakes to clean up, both from a player standpoint and a coaching standpoint. When they go back to watch film, I think they'll learn more from this game than they'll learn from the Cavs game from a general basketball perspective. Speaking of a player standpoint, let's talk about OG Anunoby. He is getting way more comfortable being his own player and taking advantage of mismatches with the dribble. This is something that we have been waiting to see all season, and honestly what we expected going into the season, and now he is doing it fairly consistently. In the second quarter, OG was on demon time. It did not matter who was guarding him, whether it was Harden, whether it was Kevin Durant, or any other Brooklyn net on the floor. He had it going, and for that small stretch in the second quarter, I honestly could see Kawhi Leonard back in his Raptors jersey. It was uncanny how effective he was in the mid-range game. My man was taking them off the dribble, off the post, getting to his spots with absolute ease. My favorite play was when he completely bullied Kevin Durant and backed him up under the rim and finished with an easy peasy hook shot. I mean, he had it going in the second quarter and the entire team knew it. Every single half-court possession, the primary goal was to get him with the ball and put him in the best spot to succeed. And if he can get into this zone or this mode with more consistency, I honestly would be comfortable with putting him over Siakam in the pecking order. Look, maybe I am getting a bit ahead of myself, but it was a nice sighting to see and maybe signs of things to come. Over the last few games, Gary Trent Jr. has quietly changed his game a little bit. He is still that catch and shoot player, the one that he needs to be, but I have noticed in the games that he has struggled from the three-point line like this one, he is instead taking advantage of mismatches and taking mid-range jumpers. I like this a lot because it shows that he has a confidence in his game outside of the three-pointer, and more importantly, many great shooters in today's NBA and from the past use that mid-range shot to get hotter, and thus it translates to the three-point shot. It is weird, but it works. Siakam made his debut, and to my surprise, he was starting. I honestly thought he would come off the bench. However, not to my surprise was the fact that Precious was the odd man out. Precious actually had a very good game coming off the bench and makes me wonder why Boucher was in the lineup down the stretch of the game and not Precious. I also felt that Scottie should have gotten way more minutes down the stretch because he was simply having an amazing impact on this game, especially on defense. I will be very interested and intrigued to see how the minutes and rotations will change with Siakam getting back and how it affects certain players' production. This might be one of the biggest decisions Nick Nurse has to make in terms of rotation, minute allocation, etc., and the responsibility is on him to execute. Either way, it is a tough loss because I thought the Raptors could honestly pull off this upset. But the next game is still tough in my opinion. They play the Celtics, who just got their hearts crushed by Luka and his game winner, and are 100% desperate for a victory. Luckily, the game is on the road, and that seems to be the Raptors' dominion. So hopefully they can pull this game off and get back on track and start another win streak.